because Jack is a self-insert in many ways. And so it makes sense that King doesn't like that the movie turns him into someone who was never likable. And The Shining is one of King's many stories that has a relatively good person being tempted and giving in to violence, and also about a man who, just this weakness within him that causes this pull and that he can't resist. And King is also a recovered alcoholic and drug addict, and at the time he wrote The Shining, he was an alcoholic, and yet he himself did not realize this about himself, or he would not have admitted this at the time he wrote The Shining, which when I heard that, it was kind of mind-blowing, because you read this book and you're like, wow, this is written by someone who really knows addiction. But then you find out that he himself wasn't even acknowledging it in his own life, and yet clearly it was in his subconscious and it was coming out in his writing. But in Stephen King's book on writing, which is fantastic, I highly, highly recommend that, he talks about his drug addiction and The Shining, and this first quote I want to share comes from the first time he ever got drunk, and we read, like the morning after, we read, "Once is enough just to find out what it's like. Only an idiot would make a second experiment, and only a lunatic, a masochistic lunatic, would make booze a regular part of his life." And this says so much about an addict, right? Because even if your first time isn't horrible, it does get to a point where it's miserable, and so just how masochistic addicts really are. And they also struggle so much with self-loathing, which just drives them to the substance all the more, and we definitely see that with Jack. And then this later section I'm reading is from when Stephen King finally realized whoa, I'm an alcoholic. And we read, "And since I was the only one in the house who drank Miller Lite, holy shit, I'm an alcoholic, I thought, and there was no dissenting opinion from inside my head. I was, after all, the guy who had written The Shining without even realizing, at least until that night, that I was writing about myself. My nights during the last 5 years of my drinking always ended with the same ritual. I'd pour any beers left in the refrigerator down the sink. If I didn't, they'd talk to me as I lay in bed until I got up and had another, and one more." And I love this visual too of him in bed with the alcohol talking to him and luring him back down, right? Much like the Overlook talks to and lures Jack.